Shoulder consists of? Let's go into bones. What does the shoulder consist of? Any feedback on that?
Scapula.
That's perfect, great. One of them, that's definitely one of them. What else? I'm sorry? Humerus, absolutely. Technically, there's just one more, if you think about it. What else could be connected around there? Huh? Clavicle, yeah, exactly. So it's just really three bones, but it's more the muscles that hold everything together in that. There's a lot of muscles around that joint. It's a ball and socket joint, so just like the hip, it has a lot of instability. It's one of the most unstable joints because it can move so many different ranges of motion, right? Why is it important? Why is the shoulder joint important? Basically, right? If you're using your hands, you're using your shoulder. Anything, yeah, exactly. So it's one of the most important things as humans. Yeah, we had thumbs, but if we didn't have our shoulder, we couldn't pull anything up, right? So it definitely matters a lot for that. So when most people are pulling, I don't know if you guys heard like 1 push to 2 pulls. Like the reason for most of that is most of the time people spend a lot of time like slouched, right? Especially nowadays with computers and offices and everything like that. I mean, it's definitely not wrong. We definitely believe in it, but it's a way of, you have to be pulling right to be able to get the benefit out of that, right? And that's why we spend so much time concentrating on all that, pulling your scapula, what does that mean, what does that look like? So one of the most important parts that we see daily is just mobility problems for the most part. Like somebody just can't get to a range of motion, their scaps are locked up, there's rotator cuff pain, there's lat pain, the pec muscles might be too tight, that also doesn't let you do a lot of things. So it's just kind of like taking what we see daily and kind of what we're gonna try to like show you guys and introduce you guys to, hey, this is maybe something that we're seeing more consistently and something we're gonna have to worry about a lot, right? So some of the clients that we see and we see all the time is like I talk to mobility. So we do a lot of soft tissue work sometimes, depending on the person. Outside of stretching, outside of our warm-ups, all that stuff, we'll do some soft tissue stuff. We'll do a lot of lacrosse ball stuff. So yeah, exactly. So what we might do to some people is, one of the things that we definitely try not to do is never try to put that ball in anybody's bone, right? Number one. So you have to find that muscle or that insertion wherever we're at. We try to open them up. We use the ball between the pec and the shoulder, right? So we open up people like that sometimes. We use that ball between their trap and their scapula, right? So right back here, some people have big knots right around there. The hardest part is to put him in that position to be able to actually get it, because it's so weird and uncomfortable, right? So for example, if I think about it, I need that pressure. If I'm using my trap, I need that pressure to come up from the top. So then how do I get my body to be almost vertical against the wall, right? To be able to hit that. So one of the things we could do is we can do a pole one, right? So if I grab my pole or my barbell, I could use it either one. And that way it's easier to, and this is kind of thinking ahead about like what would be more comfortable for the client, right? So if I had it here, I could go this way, right? And pull up, right? I'm going vertically, but now I don't have to push, so it's just making it more comfortable for myself. I can do the barbell, pull down the barbell with my hands. Sometimes I'm pulling up my trap, right? I'm trying to grab my trap and pull it, right? So it's just one of many ways we could do it. We can do it between our shoulder blades. We do that a lot too. The way we try to do it is between your scapula and your spine. You have small lat muscles, erector muscles, all that stuff that's in there. You're gonna try to find it and you're gonna try to dig into it. But you have to either describe to the client where you want them to feel it, or you have to understand where it should be and what it should feel like. That's really kind of like hard to describe, but I want you guys to feel it today and see what it feels like, okay? I feel like this is short term. Most people believe like soft tissue work is short term. So a lot of times we use it in a sense to wait to open up for that session, just the session of the day. That's it. But at the course of time, if we're opening them up more and more, the goal is for them to open up in general because they're being able to exercise full range of motion, right? So it's definitely short term, but since it opens up, all the volume of the session starts adding up, and over the time, it starts feeling a lot better. So let's go into, before we go over this, let's go over the 6 ways the scapula moves. You guys remember those? Yeah? Give me some of them. Retraction, that's pulling back, right? Protraction is going forward. Okay, that's 2. What's the other 4? Elevation, yep. What's up? Depression, yep, exactly.
Upward rotation and downward rotation?
Yes, exactly. Okay, so upward rotation, downward rotation, you're most likely going to use it in any pull downs. You're going to see that a lot. Pull downs, right? So what we do a lot is we call them both overhead retraction and protraction, but when we talked about these for warm up, right? And we talked about doing these for warm up. This is upward rotation, this is downward rotation, right? The scapula slide up and come back down like this. On retraction, they come in, they come out. Protraction, retraction, or retraction, protraction, right? Upward rotation, downward rotation. And you got elevation, both of them come together at the same time, not rotating, but just up, and then depression. On depression, really the only time you'll ever do it is when you're pushing down, away from your ears. There's not really a lot of exercise except maybe for dips that you're really doing that on, or shrugs really. Your shrugs, you're working definitely elevation, and then if you really push down, that's depression. But that's really the only time you'll use that a lot. So when we talk about the scapula moving, we're usually talking about upward rotation, downward rotation, retraction, protraction, right? That's the 4 main movements we focus on. Let's see. So when we're doing pull downs or anything like that, when we talked about it during the past regressions, progressions, all that stuff, is you're trying to just see how much that scapula can move. And what we're trying to do is produce max amount of movement when you're going up with your hand, and then movement when you're going down with your hand, right? Because I want to be able to see as a coach that whole shoulder move without anything else moving by itself, right? So I'm trying to make sure that I'm engaging that client, I'm following their scapula behind under shirt, and I want to see if anything moves. A lot of times and that's why I ask you to ask about the bicep, because most people will just use this will stay stiff, and they'll just, like right now my scapula is not moving. All I'm doing is moving my arm up and down, but I'm not moving, right? So, but I can do this, and it's completely different. Now my scapula is moving up and down. So I want to be able to understand as a coach what that could look like and what that could feel like. It could feel like your biceps working if I'm the client, but it could look like my scapula just doesn't move up and down. So we're trying this different ways of cueing, different ways of understanding what that movement should feel like and could look like. That way you understand what they're going through too. And a lot of times it takes experience. It's going to take experience to know what that feels like and know what that looks like, right? Let's see. A lot of times there might be a dysfunction between one and the other, and a lot of times we see that in what do you call that? A frozen shoulder. Happens in one and the other, and it's really random all the time. We've talked to doctors that have it, and they're like, yeah, there's nothing you can do about it. It's kind of like comes and then it just goes whenever. But it's so random and it's so painful that they can't even go overhead. One minute they could, and the next they can't. So it's kind of like dealing with that. How do you deal with a frozen shoulder? You go up to a range of motion that you feel comfortable in, and that's it. You can definitely, there's nothing, you won't like tear anything if you go past that, but it's just really uncomfortable and painful, right? So a lot of times what we do is we just focus on one arm at a time. Hey, this arm can go all the way up. Let's do one arm shoulder press or one arm pull downs on this one, and this one can't go all the way up. We're gonna go to range of motion. Like for example, you guys seen Bob and Ann work out. So Bob's the older guy. He has a harder time with his left and his right shoulder. So we usually always give him separate weights for both of them, and we only have him do one arm work. So that's an example of a person that might only do one arm work. However, when we do any pulling machine or any horizontal pulls or horizontal pushes, he's fine. It's just overhead, right? So for horizontal push or pull, I might not have him to worry about it one-handed. But for a vertical, I definitely probably will, right? Especially pushing, definitely pushing. Let's see. So what I'm gonna have you do is let's go over some mobility work in the beginning. We're just gonna make sure we're all hitting in the same spot, and we'll go from there. Sounds good? So let's go. I'm gonna grab a couple more cross balls. I'm gonna grab a couple of foam rollers, and we'll use that as our starting one. All right, so we're just gonna talk about the shoulders. So we're mainly just gonna do the upper body. So let's all grab a lacrosse ball. Let's all grab a lacrosse ball. Let's go ahead and stand up, and let's try and find each spot that we're gonna go talking about. So the first spot I want you to find is that spot between your pec and your humerus head, right? So we're gonna try and make sure if it's, I'm gonna avoid hitting bone, right? So if I'm gonna coach her through it, I'm gonna first push where I want her to feel it. Do you feel that between your chest? Doesn't feel in your bone, right? Mm-hmm. So if I got closer to the bone, it'll be a little more painful. Yeah, right there, good. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I want you to roll that against the chest, against the wall. Okay, let's see. Yep, right in there. You're gonna try to retract your shoulder. Yeah, so you're gonna be able to expose it. One of the big things you wanna try and do is ask them to retract their shoulder. So go ahead and try and do that on the wall. So to retract on the shoulder when you're facing the wall, you can do it one of two ways. You can really think about it. I can be behind them and I can pull their shoulder back and then try to either have them push forward. You can have them have their hand behind their back. It's gonna naturally retract your shoulder, right? You feel that more like that? Yep, exactly. So I'm gonna have you try to retract your shoulder, pull your shoulders back. Don't point your shoulder forward, just pull your shoulder back. Yeah, there you go. And then I want you to go ahead and pull, yep, and take time, take your time. Exactly, and you might even go lower.
Yeah, I need it.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So as you can see, this is a little weird to get to. Most people don't feel comfortable with it, so you have to like coach them, and you don't bring it up all the time. Mobility work is definitely something that, yeah, careful. It might hit some spots that hurt. Try to do it on the other shoulder if you haven't done it already.
That's why I switched it, is because this one's been bothering me, so I wanted to do that.
I gotcha. Okay, good. So like I said, so you might want to start slow, and if they feel it already with their shoulder pointing forward, don't even worry about it. Don't even ask them to retract it. It's definitely something you have to get people comfortable with, because it could be painful. I mean, I've done it enough to like where I could cry at one point, right? It sucks for sure. So opening up, exactly, open up that the pec minor, pec major is gonna help you open up. Let's say you can add, if you have somebody that's really rounded, hey, before we start today, I'm gonna have you do a couple of rolls and a couple of chest stretches, right? Just to open you up, maybe some pat down stretches before you start, right? The other one we're gonna try and do now is let's go ahead and roll between your shoulder blade and your vertebrae, right? So I'm gonna try to roll right here to find that spot. I'm not hitting any bone. I'm trying to make sure that I hit right between my shoulder and my vertebrae. I'm gonna show you ways you can make it, feel it more. Okay, so once you find that spot, you're not hitting any bone, right? No, good, okay. So what we're gonna try and do is, the first thing we're gonna try and do is now, if we were retracting when we're facing forward, what we're gonna do on this one? Protract a little bit, so right? So just try to protract a little bit and try to dig in. So you should be feeling a little bit more like that. Way different feeling, way different feeling. So this is good for you to understand how the body works. Right? You need to understand how the body works, because if they're already protracted and they're really hard, you need to tell them, hey, retract your shoulders then to take some weight off, right? And then the other one we're gonna try and do is while you have it in the same spot, you're gonna go ahead and lift that arm up slightly. Keep it at 90 degrees. Sorry, are you having it on the right or left? Oh, my bad, okay. So you're gonna keep it out, and then you're gonna try and retract, push up and down without moving your shoulder. Do you feel it more like that or not so much? Okay, good. So it should be something almost like clicking around it too. Yeah, so now we're kind of moving dynamically and moving through that muscle that's kind of really stiff. What you could do is you can go up the chain or down the chain and keep doing the same thing. So what I could do is, hey, I'm gonna have you scoot out a little bit. Let's move that up a little bit and come back in. And I'm gonna have you do the same thing. Find that spot between the shoulder blade, not hitting any bones, and it should be a little bit different now. I see you're hitting bone, so move it around and again so you don't hit bone. Maybe go lower then instead of higher. Exactly. And now what I want you to, yep, there you go. Okay, so now.
I have so many knots in there.
Okay, good. So now what I want you to do is pull that shoulder back and have it even closer to the wall. As you're going up, keep trying to push back. And try to see if you can extend that arm fully overhead. That's gonna be the hardest part for most people. It's extending the arm fully overhead as you're pushing back. Right, yeah, exactly. So that's another way you can actively dynamically do it. And you see how much more painful that is, right? But you also have to be conscious of that person's skill level and, let's say, coordination level. Somebody might not be able to do that. You might have to do it for them. Like I said, I could go behind you and push you on that knot with my ball. That's the first introduction to it, right? So that's another way to do it. That's the ball. We got forward, we got side. Another big thing we do with the ball, with this, would be, not with this, but let's switch the tools. So now, what we could do is we could add a peanut. So we have one peanut, and the peanut is basically one of those across your spine, but try not to hit our bones, right? So I just put it, I could either put it on the ground, or let's start on the wall. So I'm gonna put it on the wall, and I can just hold it in place, or go up and down. The problem is on the wall, it slides a lot on one side or the other, right? So what I could do on the floor is I could find myself on the floor, I put my peanut down. Like I said, you gotta be careful who you're choosing it to. Obviously, somebody has broken their back or something, I probably wouldn't choose to do it with that person. right? So I can just relax here. If I'm in pain, I would take it off right away. I could start with a foam roller that's easier than this, that's a little bit softer, right? Another one that I could do is Mobilize, just like we did that, right? So I'm gonna start with my thoracic spine. I'm gonna stay here, I'm gonna round my shoulders and try to push back into it, right? Round my shoulders, push back. So I'm pushing those muscles. The same thing I was doing there, and then I'm gonna move down the chain. Push back, round, push back, but it has to be that they're comfortable with that. And then you have to know that they're putting it in the right place. Because if they're telling you you're not hitting a spine, but they are, and they're in pain, I would probably stop them. That's why any kind of pain on that, I would probably skip that completely. Go ahead and try this, Brett. I'm gonna have you try that. And then make sure you're hitting on your spine. So you're gonna probably feel very robotic in the beginning, trying to go up and down. But I want you to try and see if you can relax your upper back when you're going down. Breathe, breathe, and it might crack. It might crack, like I cracked my back right there. There you go. Good. Exactly, you're almost sinking into it, letting the ball do the work, right? Yeah, so it might feel uncomfortable. If it might feel uncomfortable, just move it up and down the chain and see what feels more comfortable. There's no right or wrong. It's just kind of like playing around with it, making sure it feels. We don't spend, like I said, we don't spend a lot of time on this just because we don't have a lot of time to spend a lot of times, but it's something worth knowing, and that's where we're gonna go over this. There you go. A lot of times people are way tighter between higher up on the shoulder blades. Once you start getting to the traps, it's a different story. That's even tighter sometimes, right? There's a reason why a lot of people like massages. Same idea, it's a self-massage, but there's also a reason you pay somebody else to do it for you, right? Go ahead and try it, Kira. Let's make sure that did you feel pain at all in that? No? Did you feel like you were hitting the same spots you were hitting before, or different? Yeah. Okay. It's just like I said.
Like that,
yeah. The peanut, we call it the peanut. Breathe. Try not. Okay. Another thing you have to make sure when you do anything like that is try to breathe. You have to make sure people can exhale. If they stay tight, it won't release, right? Try to relax your head too. A lot of people in their neck, they have a lot of tension. So that's probably, yeah. We'll try to relax your shoulders. Try to go down, relax your shoulders. You can even have your hands on your side. Yeah, exactly. And then relax your head all the way down. Put your head on the ground, and then try and see if you can push your shoulders back. Yeah. Is that better? Okay, see, it's a lot more comfortable, I would say, right? Okay. So now what I want you to do, careful moving. So now I'm gonna have you slide your butt down a little bit more, and then pull yourself by your hamstrings to pull yourself lower on the ball. There you go. So you're gonna pull your spine that way. Exactly. So you're gonna have the ball go up on you. There you go. And then from here, now try it again. Right. So I'm describing to her what I want her to do, but I have to know what that looks like. I have to understand what she's going through to be able to know what that looks like. There you go. So you see how you hesitated there for a second? I can see that. So I know you're like uncomfortable with it, right? So I'm gonna have to go to the client, and I won't even ever do that peanut until I first ever try this. This one's on the wall. It would be the easiest way to start, right? Somebody that's 70, 80 years old is not gonna have a fun time with this. I would probably go with 20 to 50 years old. We do have a 65-year-old that does it in her back all the time. She's in her low back. There's no problem with that, but she's done it before us. So she's already introduced to it, right? You feel that difference? It's a little bit more different than one ball, right? Yeah, exactly. There you go. Go ahead and relax, breathe, but you have to relax. You cannot stay tight. If you see them tighten up, it's not worth it. You're just not spending any good time on it, right? So you have to understand what it looks like to be tight and to be relaxed, to feel what is tight, to feel what is relaxed, on the wall especially, on the wall. Let me see. Perfect. So that's a really good resource. We already gone over a lot of warm-up exercises for the shoulders, up and overs, wall pat downs. Those are also some we use, and we use it in combination with some soft tissue mobilization. Let's see. So now let's go over the foam roller. So a couple of things we like to do with the foam roller is at least for the scabs and the anatomy of the scabs is we want to roll. I like to roll so I like to protract my shoulders and try to expose that muscle between the spine and the scapula and just roll around it. And also, if they have really tight lats, you can go as far as trying to roll in their lats, but that's just telling you right now, it's really painful for most people. It's very painful for most people, especially when I'm trying to relax them. Right, we have a soft foam roller that's more soft than this. I always start with the softer foam roller. I used to do PVC pipes on this. It was terrible. And you gotta, yeah, it was so hard. It was so hard. But you gotta have to try to relax and see if you can dig into it. And like I said, this is something for like a day. It's like either that person's extremely tired, that person's asleep. But we wouldn't necessarily, unless it's said like soft tissue mobilization or something like that, this is once in a while we do this. It's like on a day that they feel really bad, or on a day that we need to finish early, they started getting sick, something like that is when we'll bring it in. But it's like I said, it's worth knowing where to go on a day like that for you, right? So we'll do this one. I could do my pec too. I could just do the front of my pec if I really wanted to with the side of the foam roller, right? So I could hit it here. It's just a lot harder to get in the ball. I can also do the ball on the floor if I really wanted to, right? And I could just sit here and roll on the same muscle. I can't put, I feel like, as much pressure as I could when I'm against the wall, but I could just sit here and do it if I want to stay in the ground. So there's always a way to do it. I can roll between my spinal erectors too, but that's not the scapula, but I'll show you. So I can just relax and roll between my spinal erectors. I could try to do openers. So I can be here, exhale, and you always want to make sure in any kind of stretch or any kind of soft tissue mobilization, you're exhaling. So you're gonna reach up, protract, exhale, and reach back. And try to relax your hands, right? That should open up the shoulders a lot, right? So let's try rolling on your lats. Let's try rolling on your pec. Let's try rolling on your, roll on one side of your scap between your shoulder blades and your spine. And let's also try to go kind of like overhead squats or overhead raises while you're trying to relax into it. So let's go one and one. I'll coach you through it. Thank you. We're just gonna start with, let's roll the lat. Let's roll our lat. So you're gonna try, yep, exactly. You're gonna try to get on your side, even a little bit more, Brett. Yep, that's it, good. And I would honestly find a spot that hurts, and I would just let it relax into it. And then move up and down the chain, every like 10 seconds or something like that. You can use your other arm, your right arm, for example, because you both are facing your left. You can use your right arm to support your weight if it's too much, right? And that you would do it on the front like you had it. You put your hand down here, and that way you can take weight off your body if you needed to, right?
Do you have them, I guess my question would be like, is their butt on the ground, or are they like putting that weight on?
How much weight do you want to put on, right? That's the question. Yeah, like if you're not feeling anything, yeah, I would keep my butt. I would always coach it starting with my butt on the ground, because you're gonna put a lot more pressure on your scap or your lat if you're keeping your legs off the ground for sure. Yeah, so it's kind of like on anything that's foam roller mobility related like that, it's a lot of more like self-guiding than it is anything. So you have to problem solve with them as they're doing it, right? It almost sometimes becomes harder than even an exercise does, because there's so much that you have to kind of like guide them through, what placement there would be, right? Like you're way more leaning forward than you, and that you might feel it more like that. You see what I'm saying? Like he's leaning back, you're leaning forward, so it's a little bit different spots. It just depends on when you're really tight, right? Like I think you're more used to using this. I don't think you're used to using this a lot. Exactly, yeah. So it definitely. No, yeah, not a lot of people do, but like I said, you have to explain why you're doing it. The idea is to open up that side, to open up that shoulder, to open up whatever it is. Hey, I think your scaps are really tight. A lot of times, like if you can't extend your arm, it could be from your scaps, it could be from your pec, right? So let's open up your lats. There you go. So now let's go into the side of the pec, the front of the pec, with that side of the roller. So let's go on the side of the pec with the side of the roller, kind of like what we did on the wall with the ball. Try to hit that. So I usually just use this part. Yeah, the complete side of it. And try to see if you can retract that shoulder way more. So you can expose this to this. You're gonna be the opposite. So you're gonna try to lean this direction. There you go, exactly. So you're gonna do the same thing. You're gonna try to relax this hand like this, and then try to dig yourself into that spot. You see that? There you go, exactly. If I want to be a really gruesome coach, I can just push down, right? I could just push down, right? But you see how I kind of like got you to that point where you would feel it a little bit more? That's kind of like playing around with your body, see how you can get to that point. I know by just watching you that you were trying to take pressure away from your other hand. I just got to put pressure on that side, right? There you go. But you're using just the side of that foam roller, right? Just the side. Exactly. One tighter than the other.
My right side's been bothering me
Yeah?
lately, so I don't know if it's like a little tendonitis or what, but
Gotcha.
like this feels good.
Are you doing a lot of pressing work?
Do what?
Have you been doing a lot of pressing work?
Not for like the last like 2 weeks.
Okay.
So I've just been doing a lot of like mobility and
Okay.
stretching.
Okay.
I don't know
There you
what it is.
go.
I think honestly, I think it's from like sleeping on the side a lot.
Yeah, and that could be for sure, absolutely. Like I don't even, like I'm saying, like a lot of times we don't know where anything's coming from for anybody, right? So it's kind of like just, you have to be able to be adaptive and dynamic. Yeah, there you go. Now let's turn your body around, girl. Yeah, there you go. Now you're pushing, you're trying to take pressure away from that side. Put pressure on that side. Now you're feeling it more, right? There you go, good, good. All right, so let's relax, and now we're gonna try and do it between your shoulder blades. So let's try to aim for just one. So I wanna get your right side first. So what you're gonna try and do is get on that foam roller. You're kinda gonna be a little bit towards that one side you wanna dig into. You're gonna round your shoulders forward, and you're gonna try to roll back and forth with it. Yeah, exactly. So I want you to feel, let me show you what I want you to feel, and you're gonna try to get it. I want you to feel that here. Is that where you're feeling it? No? Okay. Oh, let me see real quick. I want you to feel that. Go ahead and sit up for a second. I want you to feel that here. Is that where you're feeling it? Yeah. Okay, good. You feeling it now or not yet?
A little bit.
A little bit? Okay, so what I want you to do is round your shoulders even more. And then you're gonna come back on your back a little bit further this way. What about now?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay, so all you did is round your shoulders a little bit more and kind of guide you because you're too much on your side right now. So you need to come closer to your spine. Uh-huh. Ooh, yeah, so you need to be more in the middle then. Go ahead and go more in the middle. And then try to round your shoulders again. You can keep them, yep, like that. Pull your side and then up and down like that. Is that better? Mm-hmm. Okay, good. So if you keep your butt on the ground, it's gonna be a less weight on the ground, less weight on your on your scaps. If you're gonna keep your butt off the ground, it's gonna be more weight on your scaps, right? Nice. All right, so now let's go ahead and try the middle of your scaps. So you're gonna try to be in the middle of your scaps. You're gonna roll up and down, just trying to get this whole area. This whole area. Shoulders rounded, and you're gonna go up and down, and you're gonna try to almost curl your neck in. Try to keep your chin tucked to your chest, and you're gonna basically exposing that whole area, right? So you're trying to round or retract depending if you're in front or behind, where you're trying to expose that muscle, right? Or whatever it is that you're trying to get to. Perfect. So it's just being kind of like body aware on what you want that person to feel it in, right? And then we're gonna try and do our up and back. Okay, so I want you to start like maybe around your start of your thoracic. So I want you to be like right around your bra line. That's right around your chest, in that area, exactly. So what I want you to do is you're gonna go here, you're gonna reach forward and protract. And now you're gonna let yourself guide yourself back and keep going all the way, trying to exhale. Keep your butt on the ground. There you go. Good, good. So that's a thoracic extension. We're just working on your thoracic, right? Good. Breathe, relax. Now we're gonna try to pull everything back in, and we're gonna do it like 5 times. Okay? When you're pulling everything back in is when you have to be careful. Tuck your chin in first, and maybe you might be able to cross your arms in front of you so you can come in easier, right? All right, now again, protract and reach back. And what you could do is move up and down the chain, right? So we could go even a little bit higher with that foam roller or a little bit lower when we do our next one, okay? And go ahead and come back up. So let's go a little bit higher on that foam roller. Yep, exactly. So now try it again. Now see what it feels like. It might feel good, it might feel bad, right? We don't know yet. We're gonna see what happens. Okay, that's okay, but you feel it in a different area, right? But everybody feel that in between their shoulders, kind of? Or maybe their chest too? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and their shoulders, good, good. All right, coming back in, and let's go a little lower this time. Yeah, so you're gonna pull yourself up. Yep, exactly. Exactly. Good, so that's gonna be, maybe you're gonna feel a lot more in your lumbar, right? So that's what I'm saying, it just depends on what you're trying to feel, but you should always ask, hey, somebody says you have a tight knot, or the reason you're doing this to get that area, is that feel comfortable or not? It should feel good. Like, yeah. Breathe, breathe. Does it hurt? No? Okay. No, careful. So then when you come back, go slowly, right? If you have to put your hands on your side to help yourself up, that's also okay, right? So that's just a couple different ways to get that with the foam roller, right? And now that you've tried a couple times, you can understand what it feels like. Yeah? Beautiful, beautiful. All right, so let's try and go into the pole or the barbell. We're just gonna do the pole because it's easier to set up. So the height just really depends on the person, right? I don't want to be so low that I have to kind of like squat all the way up. I want to be somewhere below shoulder level. So for me, I could go up to 5. This would be comfortable for me to get below. I'm gonna go below. I'm gonna find my trap. I'm gonna try to dig through my trap in all this area. So I'm just gonna go up. I'm gonna pull down, and let's just go back and forth this way. I can move around. I'm getting my neck a little bit. I can get my lower trap a little bit, but it's gonna be painful for most of the people, for sure. Like the trap sucks for most people. All right, Kiri, I'm gonna have you start first. So let's come over here and let's dig around. Yes, and then you're gonna try and pull down as you're pushing up. Is that all right? Does that hurt all? Yeah? Okay. Okay. You're so what? You're so what?
Tight.
Okay. Yeah, so this, along with, like I said, stretches, works really great. A great thing would be to show them something like this, get them used to it, and have them do it at home. This is another thing we do all the time. Like, hey, I'm gonna get you a lacrosse ball. I'm gonna have you start doing this just because I want you to do a pec stretch every day, and then go ahead and roll your lats or your whatever it is we're gonna roll. If you can do this for the next month, it's gonna open you up way more, right? So hey, if we're gonna do it, we can get them to do it at home, great. And we can test them every couple of weeks to see if they're doing it right. Let's go try this. All right, so you're probably gonna be a level 3. Yeah, I think so. So come on in here, go below, pick a side, any side. And you're gonna just make sure you're not hitting bone, right? You're pulling down the stick as you're pushing up. Oh, you might be, is that too high? I don't want you to have to go on your tippy toes.
I think I'm good.
Yeah? Okay. So you're gonna try to relax that muscle and let yourself come back and forth a little bit. Exactly. There you go, exactly. There you go, exactly. Good. So you can call it pole dancing, right? There you go. Try to dig yourself a little bit higher. Yeah, I mean, and then our basic pec stretch that we just do it either, depending on the person that could do 1 arm or 2 arms, we can do this one, 90-degree angle, just try to open up, right? That could be bicep and pec, depending on where you're tight. I could do it on the rack, I can do it on the wall. I just want to make sure that if I'm teaching it in a way that would help them, right? So hey, if I can do it on the wall, if they only have a wall at home, great. If they have a door frame, then maybe you can show them on the rack, right? But a lot of times we really like to do this one too. That's the door frame one, door frame stretch. So you're here and forward, right? But you have to understand, you have to make him understand what that looks like, right? Because if they're shorter, they're gonna be probably like this. They're not gonna be able to get their elbows on here. It's a lot easier to get your elbows on here and feel it more than when it's just your hand. You have to kind of like let yourself come forward even further, right? You have to get yourself forward even further. So it's just kind of guiding them according to their height and distance. We do, like we talked about this, we do pat downs, we do elbow pat downs. We talked about that, so a combination between both. When you're doing any pat down, you're gonna make sure you bend your knee and you're gonna push through your shoulders down, right? So I can technically go between your shoulder blades and push down a little bit more. And this is gonna be, I'm just adding a little bit of pressure, and I'm gonna obviously ask him always, hey, is it okay if I push you down, right? And then you should feel a little bit more when I push down than when I don't, right? Yeah. A little bit tiny, and I'm not adding that much pressure. I'm not using all my force to push down. I don't wanna break their collar, and you can even ask them, is that enough pressure? Would you like a little bit more? Right, and then the elbow pat down is a little bit different. Go ahead and go a little higher. Higher? Yeah, right there. And then without slipping, you feel that? So it should be a little bit, I feel like this shoulder's really tight. Right? You feel it more on the left? Yep. Yeah, I can feel that. There you go. Yeah, you're pretty flexible. Close your elbows a little bit more. Let's try that. How's that? Good. Nice. Where do you feel that, left or right more? Or even?
Oh, pretty even. Yeah.
Even?
Maybe my left a little bit.
I feel like you got a pretty open thoracic. Like, thanks. Yeah, I mean, definitely. It seems like it. Good call. See, that's another one you gotta be careful of, somebody hitting it. So as soon as I usually put it on, I take it off. If I have assigned pull-ups, I'll have it on and I'll take it off right after. Especially somebody that's, I know that could possibly not be coordinated enough to like know that it's there, right?
So that's what you call it, pull-ups?
Pull-up, pull chin-ups, pull-ups. We haven't gone over this? We did go over this?
With that pull?
We haven't gone over it. Okay, sorry, because I forgot you haven't gone over backs. You weren't here for that one session. That was rowing, or that was pull-ups and pull-downs. You haven't gone over pull-downs, right?
I thought you did. It's like the negative pull downs.
Yeah, we did that, but we didn't do it on.
Really? Okay, I'll show you this one. So what I'm gonna have you do is,
Barbell. That's all.
yeah, we did it on a barbell. So it's the exact same thing on a barbell. So the only thing, exactly. So the only thing that you have to worry about on a pull-up, if you go up here, this thing is gonna bend a lot, right?
Yeah.
So what I usually teach him is having one hand the closest to here, the other one here. I'm gonna be on my tippy toes, and nothing changes compared to anything else, right? So we do it chin-ups, we do it pull-ups. I can even go ahead and just hold myself here, right? It's just, you can do everything you want as long as you're staying really close to the track. This is only accessory. A lot of times, like if they're pretty strong, we'll have them do it on the bar. This is only when somebody's not strong enough yet to do it off the bar, right? Let me see. All right, we talked about the 6 things on the scapula. So we talked about the one arm is a lot of times easier to deal than 2. So if you have somebody that's open in one and not open the other one, split it up. Split every movement up, right? Even if it says double arm, I would split it up, right? You have a reason why. That's your reason why. The only reason I'm telling you all this is because there's always a reason why. If you need to go off script, you have to have a reason why. This is some reasons why you would go off script, right? Okay, so then we talked about, I want to see you guys do scap retractions in front and behind and overhead and down. All right, let's go about 5 of each. Okay, 5 of each. Yep, exactly. Warm up your shoulders. Good. So one thing that I'm looking at as a coach, as we guys are doing it, is making sure they're not going up as they're pulling back. They're going to go straight back. Right now, I have to be able to describe that or show that. Okay, try to shrug real quick for me as you're going back. Shrug as you're going back. Yeah, exactly. So what I'm gonna do is for him is just manually. I'm gonna have you set your shoulders down. All right, keep your shoulders there as you're going back too. Exactly, just like that, Brett, right? That's one way of doing it. Another way I can tell him is like, all right, Brett, try to keep your shoulders away from your ears as you're coming back. Like I'm talking to him about it, right? So you have to be able to do both. You have to understand how both work, right? But you have to know that he's doing it wrong to be able to fix it. If you just let him guide himself through it, you won't be able to fix it. That way that person becomes knowledgeable enough to understand what they're doing right or wrong. Now let's go overhead and down. Okay, overhead and down. There you go, exactly. Down and up, yes. So what do you think could be a wrong way to do this? What would you likely, yep, you can arch your back instead of going up and down. What else could you do to do it wrong? Let's start playing scenarios out here. Yep, you can just go through your elbows. All you're gonna do instead of doing that is bending your elbows. Hey, you're not doing anything, bending your elbows. So what's one way of fixing this? I'm gonna do this. Actually, I'll do it on you since I just did it on Brett. So one way I'm gonna do this is I'm gonna pull her shoulders together. I'm gonna try to get her shoulders to touch her ears. I'm gonna go up with you. Oh, you're not gonna stand up with me. Just your shoulders, and then down. Exactly, so you see how I'm forcing you to stay in that pattern? I do have to put a lot of pressure in her to be able to do that, right? So let me go ahead and try it on you. Hands overhead. So let's say you're doing it through your elbows, so you're going down and up. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna push your shoulders together. All right, try to reach up for me. There you go, and back down. Right, so I'm actually manually trying to get him in that position so he understands, or you understand, what it's supposed to feel like, right? And then you see how much you got a little bit more flexion when I helped you up. Or sorry, distance. That's what I want to feel, is that distance. I want to increase that distance. So I want to try to almost get my biceps to touch my ears, and then my biceps to go as far away from my ears as possible. And at the top and bottom of those ranges, if I do it right, I should feel a lot of straining in my back muscles, right? Because they're working tiny little muscles that you're normally not used to working. I want to be able to get all clients up to that point. But for now, we're just trying to teach them how to work, how the scapula works, right? So that's definitely 2 of the most basic exercises that we're gonna use, and we can perfect it even if you're doing it for a year. There's ways to do it harder, right? I can start anything at plate, right? So I can do the dumbbells or plate, and I can do weighted scap retractions, right? I can do weighted scap retractions overhead, and this could be a weighted scap retraction horizontally, right? So I can be here, and I can go, all right? This is my shoulder blade working, right? So there's different ways to do it. I can technically do it both sides. It's just usually really hard to get people to understand that, right? But the only thing moving is my scapula, right? So once we get really good at unweighted, we can start doing weighted, right? The plate is a little bit harder because most people keep their elbows bent. So once I add a plate, I'm trying to keep my elbows locked out, right? I'm trying to press and relax. Press relax, right? So I'm adding a little bit of weight. And guess what? The last one is, the ones we've gone over, the opposite, hanging, right? So there's way different ways. You can go pressing, you can go retracting, pulling, right? So we're doing both directions. We don't use pressing as much as pulling, because most people understand what pressing is, but not pulling, right? All right, we talked about all 4 scap retractors. If they don't get that, then once they get that, we'll go on all 4 to start their first load basis. We've gone over all those. These are these ones, right? So we can go this way. When we get really good, we can do handstands. So once I got on the plate enough times and I can learn how to do a handstand, we can do handstand retractions. At that point, that starts getting harder. Or I can do it in a pike push-up form, right? So I can be here, and I can go up, down, right? But I'm trying not to bend my elbows as I'm doing this. I'm weighing myself a little bit. I can put my feet up on the box and make it a little bit higher, right? But I'm still just retracting my scapula, right? Obviously, these are a little bit more advanced now as we're going through it. All you have to know for now is how to do these really, really right, and these really right, right? Okay, we talked about the hollow plank and the standard plank, right? It's just a scapula. The difference is just a scapula, right? So that's also another one that we like to play around with a lot, is people being able to understand the difference between a plank and a hollow plank. That means that they have really good scapular balance, right? Single arm planks or moving planks or bear crawls also put a lot of stability work on their scapula, so we play around with those movements a lot. Try to stabilize people's scapulas. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, if you watch, do you guys have, I guess, let me ask you this. Is there anything in the video you watched and it was like mind-blowing, there's so new, I don't know what's going on, or anything you have questions on? That's kind of like for your information, and it hopefully helps you. But like I said, it's kind of covering everything that we went over, just more than anatomical things. But I think we touched base in almost everything in the video, talked about when we were doing progressive regressions. Let's see, it's just now it's kind of like, and that's why we really want you guys to like start seeing a lot of different clients, is to see how each client moves. Like both of those clients have really, really tight scaps, really tight scaps. One has Parkinson's, the other one has rheumatoid arthritis, RA, right? So it makes it harder to move, right? And there's gonna be good days and there's gonna be bad days, right? So that's just something to like take into account. Another, just to touch base, less is more when training someone new. People get overwhelmed easily. They want to work out, not necessarily become a trainer, right? So that's another thing I struggle with personally, is I love coaching and learning and teaching new things, but I got to understand that people coming to get trained and sometimes to learn, but I need to understand my boundaries, right? They're not coming in to become a coach, right? A lot of times I feel like I could hire some of my clients to become coaches, but that's a different story. Let's see. We talked about no monies. These. Okay, that's okay.
I don't know if we did, but I know it was on the video.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so that's one huge one we do. So let's go ahead and go over no monies real quick. We've done our pull aparts, right? Okay, so pull aparts are like second variation. No monies are first one. So the way we coach no monies is you're gonna keep your elbows tight to your body. You're gonna keep your thumbs or palms up, thumbs out to the side. You can keep them open or closed, doesn't matter. But I'm gonna have you try to keep your elbows on your rib cage as you're going back. And I want to see how far you can get before you have to open up. Yes, that's okay. That's okay. So I want you to try to get 10 of these. Okay. So you both have different ranges of motion, right? So you're really, really tight right here. Do you feel that here though? Or you feel it somewhere else? Okay, that's good. Do you feel that here? Okay, so you feel it in the same place. That's good. That's what we want. Okay, so I was gonna say, some people feel it in the anterior part of their shoulder. That's not bad. It just means they're really, really tight in that scap, right? So what I might have that client do is allow them to open their sides a little bit more. Allow them and see if you feel it anywhere else. You're able to come back further, but you have to understand I'm allowing you to get to that point. Now you feel it more in the back, right? Exactly. So that just changed that one tiny little thing in the front of your shoulders. Exactly. Okay, so then for you, it might be close. I need you to stay tight. For him, it's gonna be a little bit further. But you see how you guys differentiate within each other? That's gonna be every client. So that's why it's so important to always ask where you feel it, because if you don't know where they feel it, there's not one size fits all model. It's a dynamic thing. Pain is a dynamic thing. Strengthening is a dynamic thing. Limb length counts. You feel that in that front?
Is there,
Yeah,
is
yeah.
there compensation for that? Would it be like shrugging? Because I feel
Absolutely.
I feel my traps.
Absolutely.
trying to-
It would be shrugging, absolutely. And it's okay if you feel your traps on this in the beginning. If the goal is just to kind of like, for example, if you didn't feel your traps for 5 to 10, but you felt your traps for 10 to 15, that's probably endurance, right? So I need to build you up to that. You know what? For today, Brad, we're gonna stay with 10, right? And that's why it's also good to ask, hey, you felt that if you ask, oh, I felt that in my neck, did you feel it the whole time or did you feel it at the end? That's another good question to ask, right? When did you start feeling that? So it's kind of like discovering their own bodies with them. Like, oh yeah, you're right. I didn't feel it in the beginning. Okay, yeah, so let's keep it at 10 for now, right? So that's one of the best ones we use for everybody is to open them up, and we usually give them as homework. Hey, do this 10 times whenever you sit off get off your desk for an hour. Do it 10 times just to open you up, along with some pat down stretches, right? So we give them an exercise as long as and a stretch, and then get back to work. At least it opens them up a little bit, right? So that's a really good way to reset that shoulder when they're going back to work. Let's see, you guys, did we talk about winged scapula in the video a little bit? Briefly, yeah, okay. So that's one of the problems we see a lot is wing scapula. Heather has a massive wing scapula. You have wing scapula? Oh yeah, okay, cool. So with wing scapula, it's just an imbalance. So when you'll see the wing scapula the most is when they have their hands on the ground, right? So for example, we'll use this as an example. Let's see a bear crawl. Let's see a bear crawl.
Bear crawl?
Mm-hmm. That's not too bad. That's not bad. Yes, they're both up, really. All right, now I want you to push through your hands up, almost like you're trying to protract. That's a little bit better, right? So that's one way I can fix the wing scapula. It's gonna probably feel a little bit harder for you though, right? Yeah, exactly. So it's more, she has to work more on stabilizing her scapula. A big one you'll see it on is a single arm row. Most people that have wing scapula exposed right then, right? So for us, let me just get our bench real quick. So, go ahead and come over here, Kyria, and let's simulate a single arm row. Okay, simulate a single arm row. Whichever kind of single arm row you want. There's a lot of variations. There you go. Exactly. So I wouldn't be able to see it much with a shirt, and she's not a big person, so she's not gonna be able to show me. But this is a wing scapula. All right. So now I want you to press your chest up a little bit. That's perfect. I want you to be able to hold that the whole time. It's gonna be harder for her to go up and wait. Right? But I have to be able to, and she's already winged again. Try to push up again. There you go. Go ahead and keep going. Yep, and now go up and down. Squeeze that shoulder blade back though on this side. Yeah, so see how she squeezes, so it's really hard, right? So I could be overwhelming her. So if one thing I'm gonna do is not even worry about the wing scapula in the beginning, right? I'm just gonna have you get the reps done and then eventually, in the next 3-4 weeks, I'll start thinking about that. Hey, I want you to press away a little bit. See what happens.
So wing scapula is like just an imbalance?
Yeah, usually it's an imbalance, or hypermobility, right? It could be hypermobility. Like some people have double jointed joints. They just have wing scapula. Let's talk about double jointed joints. Double jointed joints, you have to be careful asking them to lock out, right? Whether it be knees or whether it be elbows. You can go too far and go the other way, so that's hyperextension, so you gotta be careful. On anybody that you see hypermobile, a lot of times when they just stand, you can see their knees, their back of their knees being almost bigger than their kneecaps, right? So that's usually how you tell. Just try to, for them, most likely, you're not gonna coach lockout, you're gonna try to coach squeeze your butt, right? Squeeze your butt and squeeze your quads, and then be careful of locking. I wouldn't even mention locking out, right? It's the same thing when I'm teaching somebody like that, a barbell chest press or a dumbbell row. Hey, I want you to go up, and then just go up as high as you can, back down, and if I see they're locking out, I don't want you to lock out fully. Especially because you're gonna be aware of, they have to start understanding that they can't fully extend because they want to build some strength, and we want to make sure that we're aware of that range that they're gonna start getting a little sketchy at, right? Yeah, I mean, going back to a wing scapula, we can only be aware of it. It might never go away, but if she can fix her form in that one thing and do it over and over again, that's stability over time. So you're gonna work with those muscles a lot, right? But at the same time, I have to be the opposite. So once that left arm was down, right arm was pulling. Once I go to our right arm down, I want your left arm to be almost pulling back again like you were. So that's what I'm saying about you're putting too much emphasis on one thing, then when they're gonna row, they're probably gonna try to keep their shoulder back like this instead of retracting their shoulder back. So that's where I'm like, shit, which one do I take care of, right? That's why I don't wanna overwhelm them. Somebody that's more advanced, I might push that a little bit more on, right? but it's just good for you to understand what that looks like. And because if that starts saying, another thing could be like, oh man, I'm having a lot of pain in my posterior or my anterior part of my shoulder. Oh shoot, I'm probably gonna think, and let's say we didn't do any pressing yet. I'm probably gonna think she's putting a lot of pressure in that bottom shoulder when she's pulling up, right? Because it's so winged that you're putting when you have a wing scapula, you're putting a lot of pressure anteriorly. So it's like kind of like you're pressing, being hollow, like this.
That's why, so I did an overhead press.
Okay.
And my left arm went numb once doing overhead presses.
Okay.
And it took like 12 hours for it.
Oh, that's a long time ago.
It was a long time. I messaged like my teacher and I was like, how long do I wait until like,
What did it feel like? Like, I'm sorry, like, was it tingling?
it was tingling and it was like,
All the way down your arm?
It was-
No, I don't think that was it. I think that was from your neck.
you would think it was my neck.
That'd be
Yeah.
more like a pinch.
That's what I think. Or it could be a pinch nerve through here too. It could be from here or here.
Well, that's probably a
But
pinch.
that
I think it's a
makes
pinch
sense
nerve.
from, like, my
I don't think it could be from the scapula. I'm not a doctor, so I wouldn't know. I usually, if it's tingling right there, I would think it's not from your scapula. I mean, it could be the fact that maybe when you're pressing, your scapula was really tight or something, or your bicep was really inflamed, but I would think it's a pinch nerve for sure.
I just wondered if it was because of the positioning.
I don't think so. I don't think so because even if wing scapula, when you're going down is when you have to worry about it, not going up. So it would be, go ahead and come up real quick. If you have wing scapula, actually I'll give you a bar real quick. So go ahead and grab this, like you're gonna do a shoulder press. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so right there you're not wing, it's at the bottom you would be wing. Go ahead and go down. That's not bad. I mean, I don't think you're wing compared here. So if I feel her shoulder blades, they're right here. I want them, this is like a good example of what outward rotation will look like. Go ahead. Up. Yeah, so they go out. So that's great. But they're not wing. You're good. Go ahead and go back down. Usually it's here when you're setting the bar where all the wing happens here. Yep, these come out. You're not winged at all. That's pretty stable for you. You're not dramatically winged, not like Heather.
Yeah.
Heather's, have you seen Heather's scapula? Okay, she's freaking winged. She would have a lot of shoulder problems. She was like a swimmer, a pitcher, stuff like that. Pitchers actually have a lot of wing scapula. Let me see. Let's try to do one in a row. I mean, you might have it, but it might not be a problem. Like you have a little bit of it, but it might not be a problem. Go do one arm row. I usually can tell just by doing one arm row or a bird crawl or something like that. All right, so go simulate a one arm row. I mean, it's winging a little bit, but it's not like. Let me get Heather in here. You see? Do you see how much it's winging?
I mean, I see it.
Yeah, it's not bad. This is. I could just have you push up in your chest. That fixes it easy. Let me bring Heather over here.
Yeah.
What's up, guys? Good. I'll have to get her later. but I can't even simulate it. It's like I can't even feel I can't even get mine to do that. You'll see it. It's drastic.
So mine's not like that.
No, you're pretty stable, and you're pretty stable too. I'm not saying it's massively winged.
Yeah.
It's not. That wasn't coming from your scapula. Not even the barbell shoulder press. That was from your neck for sure. All right, we gotta get rid of all this. Let me see if I finished talking about everything. No money's huge. Oh, did we talk about A's and T's? No. Okay, so I'm gonna go over that before we leave today. That would be A right there. But we talked about it in the face down version on the bench.
Yeah, 'cause I was asking you about.
Yes, the ATWs exactly. So I got to talk about it with the band. So let me show you that. A lot of times working around the shoulders would be kind of like a landmine shoulder press, right? The angle. I'm going that way. I'm not going overhead. So while I'm trying to get mobility, I might not work anybody overhead. I might work somebody at an angle. One of the only ways I can work somebody at an ankle is an incline press or a landmine shoulder press. That's the only reason I would program those and not a shoulder press is because they're really, if somebody came in an assessment and showed me this is a shoulder press and I asked them to go overhead and they show me this, oh yeah, we're not even gonna start there, right? So I'm gonna open up their shoulders, do a lot of stretches, do a lot of no manis. I'm gonna get them involved in the shoulder press and seeing what that lockout feels like from the side. Making sure they can do incline presses. Eventually, I'm gonna go try it again and see what happens, right?